Hi, everyone. I'm going to say a quick disclaimer here where I have roofers right above me banging. So if you hear any noises, please ignore. I'm going to try to do my best and speak loudly so that I can speak over the noises, but just one of the joys of working from home. So in any case, nice to see everyone join our webinar today. One size fits all from one-to-one practical guide to personalization. So a quick introduction to ourselves. My name is Kathy Grundis, and I'm VP of Marketing Strategy and Planning here at Shift. I've been at Shift for a little over about 6 years now, and a few more years than that in the industry. And really my focus has been on kind of direct and digital one-to-one customer experience, personalization, creating that customer experience that really drives and hits on the needs of our customers. So all the strategies around that and really truly amalgamating data, creative, and strategy together to really drive those meaningful campaigns that drive marketing and business results for your organization. So I will pass it over to Monica for herself to introduce herself.
Thanks, Kathy. Hi all. I am Monica Duggar, and I have been working with Shift for just over a year. And I'm working as a SFMC architect slash strategist. I've been in the industry for close to 10 years, where I started as an intern in a small marketing automation team. And I haven't looked back since. I've had the opportunity in these past 10 years to work with a wide range of clients, from small startups to Fortune 500 companies. And I've also had the opportunity to test out different marketing automation platforms. And although my specialty lies in everything Salesforce. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to sharing insights and having an engaging and meaningful discussion with you all. Back to Kathy.
Awesome. Thanks, Monica. So just a couple of housekeeping things. If you have any questions, we will have time at the end, about 10 minutes or so for Q&A. So please input your questions in the Q&A section of Zoom. If you end up putting it in the chat, that's okay. We'll try to catch it there too. But really, it's just easier for us to track it in the Q&A section. So please put that in there, and we will try to make sure that we address everyone's questions at the end. All right, so today, yes, we are talking about personalization, and it's a practical guide, right? So it addresses some key best practices and some common questions when we get asked about when we speak to our clients about engaging our customers. And by practical, what we really mean is that these tools are likely some that you already have at your disposal. And yes, there still are costs associated with building these personalization strategies and ensuring that you're always kind of optimizing and iterating on these strategies to enhance the experience of your customers. But a question that has come up that I think is a great way to think about any initiative is, what is the cost of inaction? So I think most of us are quite aware that in general, it costs more to acquire a new customer than it is to keep an existing one. And one stat from Forrester stated that it could cost anywhere from 5 to 25 times more. So that's quite significant. So why is that important? Well, what we often find is that many companies are so focused on hitting their business objectives with acquisition strategies, and they kind of lose sight of the fact that a lot of their revenue and business can come from their existing customers if they do it right. And in the end, it will cost them less to apply these personalization tactics, but it will also garner greater results over time. So some great insight from Salesforce's report on the state of the connected consumer. It shows us that we have by far a greater chance of selling to an existing customer than to a new one. But you can see at the bottom there, businesses tend to prioritize acquisition strategies over retention strategies, which is really costing them revenue in the end. So before we dive in, I wanted to kind of just give you a quick look of the 5 ways you can add practical personalization to your campaign tactics today. So we're going to be focusing on send time optimization, behavior-based triggers, profile enrichment, frequency splits, and persona splits. So for each of these, we'll go through what they are, why they're important, and Monica will show us how to set them up in SFMC with some video demos. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll wrap up with some key takeaways and have about 10 minutes or so for Q&A. So keep your questions going and we'll address them all at the end. So let's start with send time optimization. So I mean, gosh, is it Friday? Is it Monday? Avoid the holidays, send it in the morning. This is one of the most debated topics when it comes to campaign best practices. And there are a ton of great insights and reports on this, and there's usually a generalized response that most of us are probably following today. Or you yourself or your team conducted some sort of test and learn a little while back and found out, Tuesday mornings, those are the best time to send. So you've been sending, your newsletter every Tuesday morning because that's what the results showed. And you've kind of stuck with that strategy ever since. And that's fine, but it still ends up being kind of generic. So needs might change based on industry or the type of message you're sending or ever changing customer expectations. So it really does feel kind of like guesswork. And we kind of do it in the hope that we're sending it at a time that our recipients are the most receptive, which isn't necessarily the best thing that we can do for them from a personalization standpoint. So luckily, there's a handy little option to use STO or send time optimization in SFMC that personalizes the delivery time at an individual level. And it's based off of past engagement patterns. So what if your recipient is a night owl and typically reads their messages at 3 in the morning? Or what if they're early risers and they catch up on messages at 5 in the morning? Or what if they're like me and the only time I have to really go through any emails is at 10 o'clock when my kids are finally asleep? So none of those moments are really included in any of the best practices that you read when it comes to send times. So sending your messages at optimized times, it increases the likelihood of your recipients opening and engaging with your touch points. It also, thankfully, helps to address any confusion around time zones because sometimes that can be a bit of a mess as well. So I will pass it over to Monica, who will take us through STO.
Thanks, Kathy. So for the demo, I decided to use STO within a journey builder. But if you want, you could also apply it in a automation studio or a manual send. Here you could see, you could simply drag the STO activity right before the email that you're planning to send. And it gives you the only parameter that you could select for personalizing STO is the duration, the send window. So here you saw you could select 12-hour, 48, 72, or you could make it custom. Here I decided to use 24-hour, but you could, so let's say you decided to choose 24-hour because you want the email to go out as soon as possible. In that case, it is going to select the best time within that time frame based on the score that it has assigned to that person. But if you decide to give it a broader window, let's say 72 hours, it is also going to select the best day along with the set time. So it comes with a lot of discretion on your side, how you want to implement it. And we typically recommend that you do a split testing to see if your well-known strategy of sending at Tuesday morning is working fine versus if it's STO. So yeah, that's how you would implement STO. Back to Kathy.
Awesome. All right, so next up, we've got behavior-based triggers. So the idea here is that instead of sending one-way marketing-led messages, we let the customer's behaviors dictate how we communicate with them. So most organizations still manage their campaigns in a very manual way. We'll often see lots of different groups within one organization put in a request for a single campaign to a marketing team, and then it gets built and deployed. And the strategy behind it is really just to get some key messaging across to the end customer and kind of check it off their to-do list. And that can work for some cases. And I don't think that's ever really going to go away completely because there is a need for that sometimes. But the ideal state here is to really let the data tell us what the customer is saying and let that dictate what they need from us. So behavior triggers are also sometimes called event-based triggers, and it really is essentially an automated action that is initiated by a customer interaction or lack thereof. So maybe they didn't open an email or they didn't click a specific link. So this is a really great tool for a few reasons. First, it enables you to communicate with your customers in real time. So we're not waiting to download, a list of data from last week to then send a new campaign. It enables us to engage with your audience in a timely and therefore relevant way. Because of this, it can significantly enhance the performance of your campaigns because you're reaching the right audience at the right time in the right way. So a good example of this would be abandoned cart or abandoned browse scenarios. Their actions or inactions will trigger a set of touch points that is ultimately trying to drive that engagement or conversion. And these are specifically time sensitive, so automation is very critical here. The other benefit of automation and leveraging a tool like this in SFMC is just the fact that it minimizes manual efforts and therefore creates a lot of efficiencies overall. So I'm going to pass it over again to Monica, who will take you through a multi-channel example of how to set this up.
Thanks, Kathy. So for this journey, I decided to use the out-of-the-box engagement split in SFMC Journey Builder. And here you could see I put an engagement split right after the second email. And before I send the third touch, I am going to measure engagement with the touch. So I'm looking to see people who clicked in an email, and I'm going to send them down a different path if they clicked on an email. And if they did not, they go down a different path where they receive an SMS. So this is just a quick example how you could use customer action or inaction to send them down different path, different messaging, different channel. But this just opens up a door for other journeys. Like an alternate strategy could be you had two different CTA within an email, and based on which link somebody clicked, you can send them down a different path. So if you clicked product, email 1, product 2, email 2, and if the email bounced, you could see in the engagement step, you could also check if somebody bounced. So if the email bounced, you could just send them path of an push or an SMS. So yeah, just think smart and try to engage people in different journeys based on the actions and inactions that they're doing within the platform. Thank you. Back to Kathy.
Profile enrichment, number 3. So we have seen a ton of articles and webinars and podcasts about third-party cookies, okay? And yes, it does reduce some of our key sources of data. However, it doesn't mean that your data capture strategies die with the cookie. It means now is actually a really great time to leverage the many tools and methods you have available to you to just get to know your customers better. And one of the ways to do this is through profile enrichment or progressive profiling. So a lot of marketers have kind of taken for granted, I feel like, the power of a simple question or two that can completely change the experience of a customer. So a great example of this is we had a not-for-profit client that we were working with, and they really struggled to create content that resonated with the different types of segments that they had. And so we were trying to get members to engage, we were trying to get members to donate, but it was kind of a one size fits all message. So what we decided to do is create a campaign that asked members why they were visiting our website to begin with. Were they personally going through something medically themselves? Were they taking care of a loved one who was going through these issues? Or did they know someone who just passed or has since passed due to these medical issues that we were representing with this not-for-profit? So think about those 3 segments just there, just that one simple question, 3 possible answers. What a substantially different experience we could provide these members just by asking them that question. The tone of our message, the content, the method in which we ask for donations, it can be completely adjusted and enabled us to really significantly increase engagement and donations and creates that personalized experience and really kind of shows the sensitivity of the topic at hand. So yes, there's typically profile enrichment methods, and it typically involves some sort of form or survey or even link engagement that enables us to kind of collect that contextually relevant data on our customers. And as I mentioned in the not-for-profit example, it truly does help to create that more accurate and relevant experience for our customers and increases the likelihood to convert. But it's not really just that either. actually typically gets them to act even faster because we are right there with them. So we're able to kind of hit on those key messages and drive them to act much sooner. The other benefit of strategically profiling over time is that we don't have to ask them a million questions all at once. We can plan out how we ask, when we ask these specific questions over time to help enrich their profile. The faster it is to respond, the smaller barrier it becomes to their responses. So people are willing to share information as long as it doesn't take too much effort, too much time, and we can show the value of them sharing that information with us. So I will again pass it over to Monica. She's going to take us through an example of this leveraging email.
Awesome. Thanks, Kathy. So for this one, as Kathy's been talking about, you want to remove the barrier for people to respond. And that's why I decided to show you how to use the out-of-the-box interactive email form element within SMC. So you'll see I updated the template and I included a form within the email which a customer can respond to. And this is a form called profile enrichment. And I'm asking them basic question, first name, last name. Let's say this is your onboarding journey. You don't have much information. They just registered through a webinar. You have their email address. Now you're asking them, what's your first name, last name, and help us improve your experience. And then I'm also asking what kind of products you're interested in and how often do you want to receive the updates from us? So this is the first email that's going out. It's within the email. They could just submit the form right within from the email application. And once they do that, before you send out the next application, I have set up a decision split here where I'm checking what did they respond for the product. So let's say if they respond their favorite product is skincare, they're going to go down the skincare path. If they responded nutrition, they're going to go down the nutrition path. Now, this is just the simplest example of using the out-of-the-box features that are available to you if you have if you have SFMC as your marketing automation platform. And this is, how to use the information that they provided to you. This is just an example of how you're using in the context of one journey. But if you have collected this data, you could apply it to all the other campaigns. You could just add this information to their global data model that we know this person favors this product. They only want to receive emails weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. And you could have just before sending out the second email, I could have also added a decision split here. Let's say if they had chosen bi-weekly, I'm just going to skip the email and I'm just going to send them after waiting 14 days. So lots of application and fairly easy to implement. Like I didn't have to build any integrations here. This is all out of the box. It's all being captured within the email. But you could obviously use web forms, survey. You could build a landing page. You could integrate with a third-party system. But yeah, just something to keep in mind.
Awesome. All right. Okay. Number 4, the frequency split. So a very common question we get is how much is too much? Should I be sending 3 SMS messages a month? Should I be sending 1 email a week? What is the right mix and what are the best practices around that? The other issue we often see is that one group within the same organization has a very good idea of how many messages they're sending to one customer, but then they forget the fact that the same customer may also be getting some different touch points from another team within the same organization that they might not even be aware of. So from the customer's perspective, they're actually getting 10 messages a month from this brand or company. But from the single team's perspective, well, it's only 1 to 2 messages a month, so we can send more. The problem with that also is that everyone is different. So depending on where they are in their life cycle, if someone who is close to converting or purchasing, whatever it may be, they may want lots of content, lots of touch points to help them along that process and to kind of get them through the funnel and get them to convert. But another customer who is nowhere close to converting, but doesn't necessarily want to unsubscribe either, they still want messages from you, they'll have a very different preference on how often they would like to hear from your organization. And so I was thinking about this as we were talking about this webinar and this content. And the perfect example for me, just personally, are the emails that I get from the Gap. I get them every single day. There is always some sort of promotion. There's a new item. They're just literally attacking me with emails, even though I'm not clicking, I'm not engaging, and I'm not even buying. I mean, it's been probably over a year since I've actually made an online purchase. But I bet, they're sending the same emails to everyone. So the person who is about to purchase, a pair of jeans or whatever, they're loving it, right? They're getting the promos and they're getting close to convert. So that cadence may work for them, but for me, it's just kind of plain annoying. So, how do we address that, and how do we make sure that we're not messaging people too much and not annoying them? So the wonderful thing about Einstein engagement frequency is that it will classify contacts into categories of engagement. So some of the examples are undersaturated or saturated, and it helps to kind of automate our approach within Journey Builder. So what that does to the customer experience is that it just gives a greater balance on the mix of messages the customer is receiving and ensures that we're not putting our efforts into somewhere where it's not needed, or even worse, our efforts are actually driving customers away. We're driving them to unsubscribe because we're over messaging them. So again, over to Monica to show us how to set this up in Salesforce.
Thanks, Kathy. So for this one, frequency split, just like STO, is fairly easy to implement. I think most of the time you would spend is coming up with a strategy, how you want to target, not target customers based on which category they fall in. But for this demo, I have pulled in undersaturated, on target, and oversaturated, saturated contacts here. And what I decided to do for undersaturated contacts, I'm going to send the email right away. For on target, I'm going to wait a day before I target them. And for saturated, I am waiting 5 days. You could decide to not send them and send them any email, or wait maybe 10 days and check if they're saturated before targeting them. So this is just another way for you to know how your contacts are engaging, not engaging, if they're receiving too many email, and then build a strategy to target them accordingly. Just a quick tip that this is all Einstein. This is all machine learning. It's recording how many emails you've sent it. So once you have enabled the frequency split setting in the account, you need to wait at least 28 days. So it's looking back 28 days of data to see if they're saturated or not. This is not a bigger window for you. So just keep that in mind. And also, if the system doesn't have enough data on the contact, let's say you just enable, then most of the audience would fall in the on target split for you. So wait enough time for the scoring to build, for the model to actually classify the data, and then once you have it, you can easily just drag and drop, send them into different paths, and it's as simple as that.
Awesome. Thanks, Monica. You make it look so easy, but I'm sure if I tried to do this, I would not do very well. So last but not least, persona scoring. Now, this statement might be a bit bold and might get me into a little bit of trouble, but hear me out. I am in no way saying that performing the classic version of persona and segmentation work with the data that you have is not a fruitful exercise. In fact, I actually think most organizations don't do it enough. But we need to come to terms with two realities of doing it. The first is that personas are often built by a set of data captured at a very specific time. It is not live data. The second reality really is that human behavior is not always logical. Our feelings and what drives us can change by the day or even by the hour. So yes, I think we should be always applying sound persona and segmentation strategies to our approaches and to our data, and reporting back and understanding how each group kind of performs against each other and against the tactics that we plan to meet their needs. Absolutely. But leveraging tools like engagement personas in Salesforce adds an additional layer of personalization based on the real-time behaviors of customers. So I've already kind of alluded to this, but essentially engagement personas are used in Journey Builder, in SMC, and leverages Einstein's engagement scoring to group subscribers into different personas. So by understanding that engagement behavior of those different personas, you can tailor your strategies to target each group effectively. So for example, we can send exclusive offers to loyalists or test different call to actions to selective subscribers. And for those who have been classified as dormant, we can run a win back campaign. So leveraging a tool like this really does enable you to make data-driven decisions, live data-driven decisions, and removes any of the kind of anecdotes and assumptions from your strategy, which is critical to your success. You want kind of a mix of both. Again, we want customers and their actions or inactions to really dictate their needs. And what's great is that we can then take a look at these strategies we've applied to these groups and really determine how they're influencing subscriber engagement over time as well. So I'll pass it over again to Monica to demonstrate how this comes to life in Journey Builder.
Thanks, Kathy. So again, same with scoring split. Once you enable the Einstein scoring model in the system, after it has collected enough information, it is going to divide your subscriber database into different personas. So there are standard personas, there are loyalists, people who are engaging and opening, clicking emails within the journeys. And then there are window shoppers, people who open the email but don't click. Then there are dormant who are not really engaging. Selective subscriber is your mild to medium engagement subscriber. So as Kathy said, you want to test out different strategies with different segmentation. So for loyalists, you want to give them an early bird coupon. You're starting a new campaign, and then the first thing you're going to target is loyalists because Kelly talked about it. Like the cost of retention is lower than cost of acquiring new customer. You want to present better content, better offer to your loyalist campaigns. And for the dormant audience, you might want to do a multi-touch journey with testing out different subject lines to see, like, just to get them open the email and then maybe act on the offer that you're presenting. So yeah, very easy to implement once it's enabled. Just wait enough time for that, for the system to have classified your audience. But once you've done this, most of the time you would be spending is strategizing on how to target this audience. But once you have built a strategy, it's as simple as just dragging the split on the screen and then sending the customer down a different path. So think of multi-channel, think of email for loyalists, and maybe try push with your window because they're not interacting with the email. But yeah, that's how you implement scoring splits.
All right. Well, there you have it. 5 fairly straightforward and practical ways to add personalization to your everyday campaigns and leveraging tools that you probably already have access to, especially because today we focused on Salesforce, but if you have any marketing automation platform, they likely have similar tools as well. So we talked about send time optimization, behavior-based triggers, profile enrichment, frequency splits, and persona scoring. But whatever tool you end up using, the key takeaway is really letting the data speak, which really means listening to your customers' needs based off of their actions or lack of action, whatever the case may be. And the more tools like this that we use, and as they become more sophisticated with, the advancement of AI, it's getting updated daily at this point. It really will enable us to spend less time trying to operationalize manual efforts today and enables us to have more time to really think through the right kinds of strategies to address the needs of our customers and how to retain them. Investing in your existing customers by addressing their needs in a personalized way will not only benefit your marketing objectives, but also just your business objectives and overall efforts substantially. And speaking of AI, our next webinar will actually touch on practical approaches on how to implement AI to your day-to-day marketing operations. So it's on June 18th at 12:30 Central. So it's going to be a really great session. So don't forget to sign up and share with your colleagues. And with that, we will move on to the Q&A section of the webinar. So we have a couple of questions that have come through, so I will read them out in order. So from Jeff, we're looking to personalize email and landing page communications based on our sales rep. For example, providing our sales reps contact info in an email through the use of snippets and dynamic segmentation. My question is there a way we could reference a flat file, a CSV or Excel in Marketo instead of building out a lot of flow steps to change data values in fields? That sounds a little bit techier. I know it's Marketo, so I don't know, Monica, if you're able to respond. But we have, yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely out of my territory, but I have fairly like very low experience with Marketo, but I don't see why you would not be able to reference a CSV file because in SMC it's very simple. Like for the example that I use with profile enrichment, what ends up happening in the end, it's a flat data extension where all that information is being stored, and I'm just referencing it when sending communications. So I assume a similar structure because like most of the marketing automation platform have a one-to-one mapping, like the naming conventions differ between the platforms, but I could definitely ask an Marketo expert and get back to you on this one to be 100% sure.
Yeah, we have a lot of Marketo certified
Yes.
team members. So
Yeah.
Jeff will reach out to you as a follow-up and just make sure that you're feeling good about how to potentially set that up. The other thing I would say too is if you don't already have a modular template, it would make the dynamic content a lot easier to also implement. So something to also think about. Another question is using the gap analogy. Yeah, I shouldn't have. I am really annoyed by them. I hope someone shares this message. Let me fix your strategy for you. What would it take for you to personally unsubscribe from this annoying cadence? Yeah, so that's the thing. I'm complaining, but have I unsubscribed? No. I just kind of ignore it to the like I know that I'll probably eventually buy something and I want to make sure that I have kind of the sales code. So they're keeping me tied, but it's not for the right reasons, right? So it's working, but I'm not the happiest necessarily either. So I would probably, kind of take a look at different ways to test into it so that you're not losing members, you're not getting them to unsubscribe, but you're also not annoying them either and making sure that sentiment stays positive. But always testing into cadence and again, leveraging the tools that we highlighted today would really also help to kind of understand what these changes do to affect the lifetime value overall. Um, the next question is, how often would you recommend testing and iterating these tactics based on my data? I think, and especially with email, because that is the most effective channel that you can do it, but SMS and others work too, web, etc. You should be testing and learning all the time. If you're not, it's just such a missed opportunity for that data capture, for that learning. And again, just understanding that customer expectations are always changing. So just because you tested something once during a specific amount of time doesn't mean that that still stands true today. So always be testing, always be learning, always be iterating. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is that they'll do a test for 1 week or 2 weeks or for one deployment, so to speak. I would recommend expanding that as much as possible, making sure that obviously you have statistically significant data amounts, that the quantity that you're sending out to makes sense, but having a rigorous testing plan, like I recommend at least at minimum a 6-month testing plan to learn from, I think is critical. The next question, what are some of the best methods to get users to self-identify traits that I can effectively use for personalization beyond the sign-up form? So I have some ideas, and Monica, feel free to jump in on this one too. There's ways to take a look at it. The way that you tag the content within your email can help you to determine what they're interested in. So a very basic example is, let's say you're a chocolatier and you're sending emails and there's dark chocolate and milk chocolate and white chocolate. And this person only ever clicks on dark chocolate. You could start to infer that they are dark chocolate lovers. So just if you're tagging the content appropriately and you're able to kind of pull that data and start to cluster that information and create segments out of it, there's ways. It's called indirect profiling. So what can we profile on them based off of their actions, where we're not explicitly asking them, in a form or in a preference center or whatever it is. But preference centers are another way, these beyond a sign up form, which is a great way. But my only thing with preference centers is be careful what you wish for. Don't give them like a million, like you have to be able to action on the options that you're giving. If you ask them those questions and they say, yes, this is what I'm interested in, and then you're not sending touch points that address what they told you that they wanted, it's going to be a really bad experience. So just be careful. Make sure that when you set up a preference center, you're actually able to act on it as well. I don't know, Monica, do you have any other ones from
Yeah,
your
no,
experience?
absolutely. I love all of those. So indirect profiling, and then I gave you an example of like direct profiling. So like other thing I would say, like make your emails interactive. Like so we like for one of an account we had like message copy insight enabled, and then one of the most interesting insights that I learned were the best subject line, the subject line that worked the best were the ones which were asking a question, or instead of making a statement they were asking a question. So like people like to interact, give feedback, so make sure you make your emails interactive. And behavioral tracking, we talked about it, just track. So indirect, it is an example of indirect profiling, to be honest, but just track how they're reacting with the copy that you've sent, and then test out different copies, and then you could build out like what kind of content your subscribers are engaging with. Um, and other thing is like you could also incentivize feedback. Like you're making the content interactive, but a lot of users would respond to, if like respond to the survey and get this discount. That kind of communications also work well.
Yeah, completely
Mhm.
agree. All right, so that is it for the questions. But of course, if there's any other questions or thoughts that come to your mind, please don't hesitate to reach out to Monica or myself. Our contact info is listed at the bottom of the slide that you can see here. And that's it. Thank you so much for your time today. We hope that you found this webinar to be informative and, of course, practical. And we hope you have a great day. And until next time.